How Sherman Alexie has reconstructed the history of America from the Native American perspective. Let's discuss who is Sherman Alexie. He is a Native American writer who belonged to Spokane tribe. He is also a novelist, short story writer, poet, screenplay writer, and a filmmaker. He was born on October 7, 1966 in Wellpinit, Washington, US. His writings draw on his experiences as an indigenous American with ancestry from different tribes. He grew up on the Spokane Indian Reservation and now lives in Seattle, Washington. Who are Native Americans? This is the $1 million question. Native means those people who born and grew up in an area where their ancestors lived. So Native Americans are those people who lived there for more than 10,000 years. But in 1492, when Columbus discovered America and the downfall of Native Americans starts with that. In post-Columbus era, native people enslaved, sold, killed, and wiped out by many diseases brought by European colonizers. The most famous tribes of Native American were Aztec, Incas, Mayans, Lakotas, Sioux, and Apache, and hundreds and thousands more. Now, what is the reconstruction of history from Native American perspective by Alexie? The word reconstruction means the construction of something which is already made, and we have to remake it, reconstruct it to improve the flaws and mistakes. So reconstruction of American history means that there was something wrong with American history because after the Columbus reached this territory, native people gradually lost their control over their lands and white European gained it and came to power. So most of the American history is written by white Americans who are biased towards the native people. Even in their first constitution, they wrote about native people as savages and barbarians. The other reason is that native people are not educated well. Their culture, tradition, civilization, everything was, even their language, ruined by the white people. Reconstruction of American history from Native American perspective. The later part of this sentence is very important. This means it is the other side, totally other side of American history, felt feel by Native American and written by native people who were marginalized by white folk as called them Alexi. Sherman Alexie, who also belongs to a Native American tribe named Spokane and lived his early years in a reservation. So, what is a reservation? Reservation means a place where native people confine to live because they have no home, their land stolen by white people. They kept isolated from other tribes to make them dependent and broken heart and isolated from others, so they can't unite with them and take power. So, how he represent the Native American history? Let's throw some light on his work, famous work, short story, What Upon I Will Redeem. A famous short story by Alexie. It tells many things about Native Americans and their lives. So, what the main theme in it is homelessness. In this story, Jackson, who is the narrator, shows how native people spend their lives on streets. There is strong feeling of homelessness because they expelled from their lands and confined to live in the reservations. They are deprived of their homes. Alcoholism is one of the major themes in Alexie's work. He was himself addicted to alcoholism. His brother, his father, and his two or three friends even died due to alcoholism. That is why Islam prohibited the use of alcoholism. In the short story, he also shows how he spent his money on alcohol when he gave $80 at a bar named Big Heart. the whiskey for himself and for the other Indians who were stayed there. He also told a story in which his grandfather, who was a very peaceful and kind person, was killed by his brother, who were quarreling with his wife, and when his grandfather came there to stop them, they are drunk, his grandfather's brother and his wife. So the brother of his grandfather pull up gun and shoot his grandfather in his head, and the whole story is revolved around how he get money from different kinds of works and different pupils, and how he spent his money on eating and much more money on drinking. Sherman asserts that alcohol that brought by Europeans ruined their life and relations of native people, and they ruined their life and money by drinking more and more. Native people as kind, peaceful and generous. In this story, Jackson uh, Jackson gave $20 to a girl named Mary. So and he tell her that it is our tradition, when we win we gave it to our family, we divide it, we gave to them. At another point, Jackson told the cop that his grandfather was also a cop, but very kind, who never arrested a single person or stabbed or shoot anyone throughout his life. Lost identity. In the story, Jackson's grandmother's pow dancing regalia, which is the main thing in this story, which was hanging in a pawn shop, symbolizes the that like this regalia, their identity is also stolen by white people. They lost their identity, their land, their homes, their rituals, their tradition, and their culture. Conclusion. In the light of above discussion, it is concluded that Sherman Alexie reconstructed the history of America from Native American perspective, which is too painful for them and also for us. But despite these are all the catastrophes, he hoped to alive the tradition of storytelling and myth making of Indians. He wants to preserve Indians' culture and their history, but it's very painful task, and the native Indians are on the verge of chaos and ruin. Alexi made this by incorporating native people's lives into his works and made a new history with a totally different perspective than white folk. Thank you.